So what we're going to look at now is handling this very specific circumstance where we get a validation error based on a GET request for a GUID that is not a GUID. Now, validation errors we'll typically get back from the server in our forms where we're trying to send up data and our server-side validation has said, nope, this is not acceptable, and it sends back a 400 bad request to our client. And we still want to keep that behavior in place. But we also want to deal with the fact that because we're using GUIDs, we're going to get a 400 bad request if the user changes the URL to something that isn't a GUID. Now, we can't stop the request going up to the server based on what the user puts in the URL, but we can handle the response back from the server when it gives us this particular validation error and use that response to redirect the user to our not found page, even though it's a 400 bad request. And what we'll do is, let's just go back to our agent.ts file and let's just console.log the error.response to see what we have available. And what we want to check inside here is what we can use to check to see, first of all, that this is a GET request, and secondly, what kind of error we get back here to see if we can use something to identify that when we get this particular response and we're sending up a bad GUID, we can use that to redirect the user to our not found page. So let's take a look at the error response, and I'll just go back to the browser and to the console, and I'll just refresh this page. And if we take a look at the response, and if we take a look inside the config object inside here, we can see the method that was used to send the request. And when it comes to a not found, we only want to redirect them if it is a GET request, so we can use this. And what we can also do inside the data, inside the errors, we can check to see if the error has a key of ID. And what we can do is we can check the status code is 400, we can make sure that the method is a GET method, and we can also make sure that the error has a key of ID. And with those three conditions, we should be pretty confident then that we're getting an invalid GUID kind of error. So let's go back and add that particular check into our interceptor. And what we'll do is we'll check the error.response.status is equal to 400. And in fact, what I'm going to do is destructure the elements that I need from the response object so that we don't have to do quite so much typing, and I'll say const equals error.response, and we'll take from the error response, we'll take the status, the data, and the config, and then we can just remove the error.response from here, and we can just check the status equals 400 here, and then we'll add a double ampersand, and we'll check to see the config.method is equal to get, and the data.errors, and we just want to make sure that it's got a property called ID, so we'll say has own property, and we'll specify the ID. And if all of those conditions match, then what we'll do is we'll just say history.push and pass not found. And if we go check again, what we should find is that once again we get redirected back to our not found component. So once again, I'll just repeat the behavior. I'll make it an invalid GUID, and we should get redirected to our not found page, and we do. So that's our 404 type of error dealt with, and what we'll take a look at next is what we can do when we get a 500 error back from our server.